Morning, folks.
Morning.
You know, this is probably the most happy I've been this whole year, seeing a room full of colour. No understanding. Look, I've been forced to not be able to wear my shirts having to work on a job site with multiplex for the last, well, since March. And so arriving in and amongst this is like, woohoo! Morning. And to all of those who can see us online now, Costa.
That's right.
Morning to all you other fellas about the place too. Just looking at us through your screens and having to put up with this shirt, you can't see everybody else. I'm Ron Bradfield. My main job, firstly, though, is to introduce Hunter and Jerry Hayden. Come up and put you on country and give you a sense of place. So please, Jerry.
Yeah, I see what he means. Hey, I'm just filling in for my auntie to do Welcome to Country today, thanks to Michelle. And I guess what I'm going to say is based on today's demonstration about what we're going to do, why we're here, and where we're going to go to. So, Wanji ngai kalko karijin kalgo kat darbi ngan kodak ngalang nanakat danju ye nunga nonok dalin jinangin karijin karin ye nach darbi Wabi. Ye nunaka, kojet kor, nungur, palbin, kudak nanakat, buraka, nunuk, kalbin, danju nunuk korin, burdawan, ngalamurt. Today's demonstration will show us we can all come together and create a space to make and create a piece of art that can help us, our minds, our body heal. So welcome everybody. I'm always trying to understand, forever thinking about our future, where we go, a purpose in life, our belonging. So together today we listen and understand, think about today. What are we looking for? What are you looking for? Today we go forward to give healing, hope and belonging. Courage, we all go forward. Together we walk into the future, our family, you all. And to those who are out there that's listening on, I was going to say Facebook. Kaya to you too. And I've never done this before, so it seems like, you know, I'm just talking to yous and not to the other people, but I am talking to yous as well. So may the good spirit watch over us today, and may we all be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much for putting us on country. Something that's extremely important, and if not for you, then for me. I am Ron Bradfield. I'm a Bardi man. I find myself held and kept safe in this place, in this country, by my countrymen. I've been here for a long time. That's where I landed when the Navy kicked me out. Well, they didn't kick me out. That just makes it sound really bad. But this has been where my sons were born. This is where my sons have started their first steps in their life. This is where they've received their education. They're plugged into their Bardi people, but they have started in this place. Like many of you, you've had children and you come here and you've landed and you've added your story to this place on this timeline. And those of you who are watching us from back there somewhere, back there, is that something I can do in this world? You too put your feet upon someone else's country. Land of old stories. It's nothing, that's not something to disdain or dismiss. It's actually something to discover. You're going to have conversations about that as you go further into this day. You are perhaps some of the luckiest people on this planet because you stand to the lands of the people who continue their culture and they enrich yours with it today. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you. And thank you, my fellow countrymen who are in the space, Aboriginal Islander peoples, for joining us and being here, yeah, and helping us have this conversation, reminding us why this stuff is important. I also would like to thank, of course, the City of Joondalup for hosting us and ECU for putting us in such a place. Plenty of light, plenty of colour. I'm just going to keep saying that because. And also thank you to Creative Recovery Network. I was also one of the other partners that helped us kick us off. Why are we here, folks? Well, I don't know, but a little while ago we started a conversation about what it would be good for a group of artists to do. Can kicked off this yarn, brought a group of people around the table and said, why does this matter? If you've had a year that's just a little bit apart, like a part of the year that I've had this year, you as creatives, you people who've tipped into this world or tipped into yourselves as creatives, you know why this matters. If you've seen anything online that's actually reminded people through the course of 2020 why it is that the connections between us matter, why it is that our human creativity, how it is that we mark place, how we mark time, how we tip into the things that have impacted upon us as a people as a result of what's going on in the world. Little things, big things. Bigger things thanks to this online presence and the way that we can share and have come to learn how to share online with others in other cultures and other bits of land elsewhere across the sea. This stuff matters. Who we are in our stories, who we are in our place. We put our feet down in this country. This matters. This is your opportunity to join our day's demonstration to show the others out there that who you are as an artist, who you are as a maker, creator, the person who occupies space and fills it for others, you matter. Now, if you've had to put up with me through Art Source, okay, through barefaced stories or other bits and pieces about the place, you'll have heard me bang on about this quite a bit. Your stories matter, people. How you put your feet down on this budya to celebrate who you are and how it can be enriched in this place is important. And hopefully as the day unfolds, you'll be able to have more conversations about that. I'm mindful of time though. You will have seen some of the CAN staff about the place. CAN staff in the room, can you put up your hand so people can see you? Sorry, I'm not CAN staff. Throughout the day, if you need to ask anyone anything, tip in and find any information out you can. CAN staff are wearing CAN badges, black CAN badges, you can see them. Please do, please approach them and have a yarn and tip in for the rest of the day. You're going to be, well, you're sharing a space with me this morning, and then you're tipping into the rest of the day today. Costa's actually maintaining our online presence and our connection to everybody else. Sorry to point you out, Costa. You and I can secretly have conversations by raising of eyebrows. I think you and I are the only two who can get away with it. Your involvement and taking part in this will help others taking part of this online. Okay. I also noticed you happen to have this bag in front of you. You're going to meet some of the artists who are going to talk to you about that very shortly. Familiarise yourself with it, because I'm probably going to tell you to take stuff out of it and fill it in. Terrible as I might be. And we can go from there. Order of the day. in this space, we're going to be, well, as you probably all have, I'm hoping you have this. I'm not sure that I do. Yeah? In this space, you'll be having conversations with the change makers. Yeah? And that actually will tip off with Len and Monica afterwards, after my initial bits and pieces here. Outside, you have the creative hub. Now, some of you are, in fact, most of you are having a cuppa and feed refreshment out in the space down the corridor down there. When you look out the window, you can see over the pine trees and that garden out there. At the back of the big screen, out in that space, the outdoor theatre, is the creative hub. Okay, that's where you can take part in making, listening and sharing in bits and pieces out in that space throughout the day. And of course, Costa is maintaining our online presence and how things go on through here. Some housekeeping points. Outside, through the doors and just before the toilets, or outside the lifts, next to the lifts, there is a water point. You need to go and fill up your water bottle, you can. It's right there. Conveniently located next to the place where you might need to get rid of water. Further around and to the side of the left there, the toilets are also down along that way. We're looking at maintaining social distancing protocols, of course, but this is Western Australia. Be mindful of what that is, folks. Yeah? Keep your spaces where you can. Wash your hands. Be aware of what you're doing when you're coughing and sneezing. There is an emergency muster point. It's not the car park, as much as that might suggest that to you. In fact, the emergency muster point is out under the trees. You'll see a sign there that says Zone 8. It's sitting in the middle of that. Should there be any reason at all for you to evacuate the building and gather in a safe place, that is the place to go to outside. So it's down the steps, straight out and under the trees in the centre of it, where you can get some shade and be comfortable. You can also use the local guest Wi-Fi, right? So if you're not already doing it, you can go and look up the Wi-Fi options on your particular devices. Look for ECU guest Wi-Fi, okay, and go through the processes to log in and register. You can access their guest Wi-Fi. Okay. Now we don't have to introduce a minister, so I'm going to actually introduce someone more important, the artists themselves from plot. Alex, would you like to come up and talk about what's going to go on for the rest of the day? And Elizabeth? Oh, by the way, sorry. Alex, coming down, Elizabeth, Zoe and Shanali. And I'll hide over here with my orange and your...
Hi everyone, I'm Alex, this is Elizabeth, Zoe and Shanali. Zoe and Shanali have already started over in the corner there. They will be scribing today and creating a beautiful artwork which is a reflection on today. And Elizabeth and I will be working on this today, which is the thread. So this is a tool today to provide moments of reflection and moments of connection between us all today. If you haven't already, grab your thread, and it should look something a little bit like this. And your first task, if you haven't already done it, is to look at the yellow one, and it says, I'm here because, and for you to write or draw something there. And once you've done that, swap it with someone. So you can swap it a few times. The idea is you swap it with someone. So I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to do that now.
And for those of you that are joining us online, there's also a thread of slides. So please go to the first yellow slide and write your response in there.
Do we turn them off or hands the whole?
No, hands the whole object. Excellent question. Yes.
The whole thing together is the thread.
No tearing of threads, only more weaving. Yeah, that's a good idea. Pop it back in the bag and swap.
So
Yeah.
once you've completed the yellow card, you'll have moments later, and you'll be prompted to complete a few other moments. But also, when you're feeling one of those moments coming on that you want to respond, you can also fill one out. But when you've completed a card, put it back in the card, put it back in the bag.
No, leave your name. And I'll just, let's do a quick swap now, and then I'll send some more bread. Swap, swap, swap.
This isn't putting your order in for your lunch. It's going to be real messy otherwise.
So now you can take it out, and during this next section, if you can fill out at any point during the day any of them apart from the pink one. The pink one's the final moment, so save the pink one, but you can fill in any of the other bits along the way. So we invite you to consider filling one out during this next session, and then finding a moment to swap with someone. Just to let you know that at the end we will be reading some bits out, and we've kind of offered that this can be anonymous. So the idea is that we're all reflecting and sharing and reading, but there's no need to put your name on it. Okay? Does that all make sense? Any questions?
That's okay.
What happened?
This is going to be anonymous. I don't think I'm going to be anonymous.
So if you see one that says one Vegemite roll and an orange juice, I got it wrong. Please give it back to me. Okay? I also neglected to mention other partners have joined us, of course. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this and gather online if it wasn't for Arts Front. And another group that actually helped us have this conversation from the start, very important one, Museum of Freedom and Tolerance.
Sorry, Ron, I've got an important question.
Go on,
Do we keep these and pass them on?
We do.
And whoever gives me, you give me yours, so I'll pass theirs on to somebody else?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All day.
I want mine back.
Well, you add to the one that's arrived in front of you, and you put your bits in and pass that on again to another one. Yes?
I'm going to go find my biro.
Yeah, look out now, you're going to be raiding biros left, right and centre. Did a biro come with a bag? Oh. Biro, pencil, text message? No, don't do that. I want you to think about where you are. Just thinking about us wrapping this up, bringing this all down to who we are, where we are right now. I'm going to ask you a question. You can follow along with me and see how you feel. How many Perths do you think there are in the world? Perth. So places called Perth in the world. Two? Five? A few. Look, Google tells me that there's 18 places called Perth in the world. How many are in Australia, folks?
Two.
One here, and where's the other one? So, globally connected as we are, and the more people that we come across who come from different places, simply telling people that you come from Perth isn't necessarily as simple a reference point as you think it may be. The States is greedy, it's got 5, supposedly. Don't know why that would be the case. There's, of course, the original one over in Scotland.
Yeah.
There's some in Canada, some in Africa, I believe. But 18 out there in the world. Now you live in a place that already has its unique naming. It's a unique place that you put your feet on. There is no other place called that in the entire world. You have your feet on this wujja. Wajak wujja. There is no other place called that in the entire world, and it's still referred to as that place. It still holds that name. There are more specific names in and around this place, by all means, and we'll tip into that further as the next roll of conversation comes out. But when you put your feet down, you can tell people that you're from Perth. But actually, this place is far more significant than just that. You are in Wajak in the largest Aboriginal language group in Australia, in the largest state, on the only island continent, on the only habitable planet in our galaxy that we know of. And then there is you, and your stories, and who you are. So put your feet down with care. Carry your stories with respect. Tip into the conversations about who you are. The notion of sharing freely and safely, because this is meant to be a safe place for us to have conversations. I give you something, you give me something. Thank you, folks. With that, I think we might kick off with the next yarn and conversation. Sure. I'm going to invite, of course, Professor Len Collard and Monica come on down, but I'm going to actually read out who it is that Len actually is with his official title because it's important. I find this really interesting as a fellow who can't access all of my language and bits and pieces as a result of what's happened in my family's past and as a result of us actually being brought into, the nature of what Australian society is. Professor Len Collard is an Australian Research Council Chief Investigator with the School of Indigenous Studies at the University of Western Australia. Think about that. Think about the implications of that. Think about the implications of a man actually taking up a role like that and stealing back or putting forward the nature of what language is in this place, given what's happened with the nature of the history of our country as it's developed. And of course, Len has been working with CAN for the last 4.5 years around the Noongar place naming and other bits and pieces. I tell you that names matter and our language matter and who we are and how we can celebrate that as a group. This is why. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Hey, it works.
It does.
Lucky I didn't start swearing on that.
For real.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Ronnie, for those lovely words. I've known Ron quite a while. Went back to the Murdoch days, I think it was when he had his. Yeah. So I just want to say thanks, Sis, for those lovely words. Music to Ngalamurang and Donkwa. Kurang ngan nok ni na lang ngan wangin ngan murang ngan budawan bao wangin ngan bulurang wamalak bao ya pulling ni na lang nek nalaking murang ngan wangin. So that's what they said, and the irony of it is we speak our language, which is the language in our backyard, and people don't understand what we're talking about. And I just want to remind everybody in the audience that art and culture and language and stuff is all the synergy which we're here for today. And hopefully we'll have a go at cracking some codes, which is something which nobody in the world will experience until we do it here. So it's not brand new. It's not brand new for Noongars, but it's brand new for Australians. And just to say that we'll be launching off the Australis Cuttigan Biddy. We're going to launch it from the Southern Knowledge Trails, and we're talking back to the Northern Hemisphere. And so we might be talking to you through your Aboriginality. So if you're Irish or Scottish or Welsh or Dutch or Portuguese or whatever your ancestral heritage is, that's what we're talking to. Because everybody in the room is an Aborigine from somewhere in some place. And we need to remind people that around the world there is a revolution going on. The Aborigines of the world are talking back to the colonising systems to say, if we're a Celt, we're taking the foreign words off of our maps. So it's not a race argument in Australia. This is a global pandemic of reasserting the sovereignty of the people. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And thank you, Sister, for welcoming us and acknowledging the other Noongar Britties in the room and other Britties. So I'm going to hand it over to Mon to. Hey, look like your husband's ringing up.
It's actually my son. Like, decline. Thanks for that, Len. I really, I say this the couple of times that Len and I have had the opportunity to speak about Noongar place names since we've been doing this project for a few years, is that it's an honour for the reasons that Ron shared and the sort of things that Len just spoke about right then. It's sort of like job done. If the day of demonstration's about anything, it's about the way that Len just described. Whenever I say decolonise, he's like, no, us Noongars, we're recolonising. We're past that. We're now recolonising what the colonisers did. And I think that's a really powerful thing. But before I go any further with what we're going to talk about today, and it's always a bit of a tag team, so I like to direct Len a bit, so I'll just give you the heads up for that. It's the bossiness of being the youngest of 9 children. I take what I can to tell my elders what to do. But I'd like to obviously acknowledge that we stand here on Budja, and I pay respects to my elders past, present and emerging, and to Jerry Hayden to do the Welcome to Country, just to acknowledge Jerry. Jerry is an amazing woman. She's certainly my cultural mentor. She's been with CAN for a very, very long time, for 10 years, and I know that you stood here today with your mum and your aunties and your more. So thank you for that, Jerry. So just to give you a little bit to kick into what place names between CAN and Mudja is about and what we've been doing. So first of all is who is CAN? So CAN creates positive social change through the arts, building inclusion and understanding between people. Nice and simple. And CAN place names, we've been working with Mudja. We've had 5 years of funding, federal funding, to really pilot place names project. And we've got a bit of a growing team, and I'd just like to acknowledge the place names team in the room here. So firstly, Christy Vanderhayden, who is up the back here. Christy's our project manager, and Christy's kicking off. She's new to Budja, and she's kicking off really enjoying working with Len and Jerry and Sandra in Wallia in Fremantle. So that's what's happening right now. Jerry Hayden is also part of our place names team, and as I thought yesterday, almost part of every single part of CAN, but I'll just stick with place names for now. So Jerry Hayden's part of that team, and Jerry's worked in quite a few of the place names projects with Len that we've done in the last few years. And Sandy McKendrick, who's here as well. So Sandy has just finished up on the Mora project, which was a beautiful project with an exhibition launch last month or the month before now, time flies. And a stunning publication, exhibition and a podcast and photography. And check it out through the website because it's a really beautiful collection of stories and what place and identity means for those Noongar people. So I guess we've worked, very briefly, we've worked in a number of communities now. We've worked in Langford, and a beautiful map came out of Langford, a textile map. If you haven't seen it, it's going to be at the West Australian Museum. So with the Yorgas who worked out there, that was a beautiful project. We also worked in Albany, in Kinjarling, and there's a fantastic documentary that's actually going to be aired on the 15th of November as part of NAIDOC, and Jerry's going to, and Michelle White's going to talk a little bit about that on the 15th as part of NAIDOC. So if you want to know more about that, just follow our socials and you'll hear more. Also in Katani. Katani really provided, we worked in Katani for a couple of years, and it really provided a strong model for what Len and I are going to work through today. When I say Len and I, it's going to be Len, and I'm going to direct and say, can you do this bit now, Len? So that's been a really, I want to say so much about that project, but really I don't have the time to do that. So check it out online. It is a stunning project. And when I say it became a model of consensus building. It became a model of the cards that you'll see, of the way to bring the layers of what we're going to talk about today into the community. So we don't have academia here and community knowledge here. It's about putting Indigenous knowledge and the Cardigan, the knowledge and the culture and the language equal. And that's what I think Place Names is trying to do. So I think that's probably enough of that, Len. I think what we can do next is show a really lovely quote of yours, which I'll just let everyone read. And then I'm going to ask you, Len, I've just got a slide of the Noongar country. If you just want to give a little bit of a brief description of what this is.
Go back to the...
Oh, sorry. You haven't finished reading. Sorry. Oh, yes. Then the online people can't see me. No.
Yeah, so just before I go a bit further, Braden Hill, the PVC here at Katani, and I just want to acknowledge Braden and his team and the great work they're doing. And my colleague Clint Bracknell, and there's a bunch of other Burrubiris or future leaders. I just want to acknowledge them before we start. So people like me and Jerry's grandfather, old Yellowkitch, our old grandpapa, raised Jerry's mum with my nana Muriel. And so the thing about I think the privilege that we had is we all grew up with our language. We never had to go anywhere to learn it. We learned it straight from the bosses, so to speak. So, when we're talking about language, we're not those fellas that had to go to the language centre or go to the TAFE or go somewhere. We just were at home with our family. And so the stolen generations folk, there's a lot of trauma ongoing from that. But I think what I've often said is we should write a book about we stayed home and learnt our culture from our family, because the domination of the stolen generation catastrophe has really sort of skewed the narrative. So I think the Place Names helps us to actually come back to the bosses, find out who the language and the bosses of the Katani Briti are, and then we can go from there. So, as a young bloke growing up, it was always a privilege, being younger in the family, to spend time with my grandparents. So I was really referring to what I guess my old pop said, that got to learn how to speak grandson, otherwise, in the future when Northern Wadullas and other Mornings come to sit in front of you, you've got to learn how to speak in their language, that is the foreign language of English, and then we've got to learn how to speak in the home language, the Patriots language of Noongar. So what we'll be talking about is something in between. So we're talking about a sort of a hybrid thing, Noongar and English. And so the idea that Noongar language has sort of gone into the past and it's unretrievable is a false narrative. Using Donald Trump, that's false news. We've never actually lost our language. We're not even in rehabilitation. We're not even in reclaiming. We're just getting on with business as per normal. Some others are doing the reclaiming. Some others are doing what they're doing. So the next one, okay, this is the Noongar Budjera across the southwest lands. We know that across the southwest Budjera, whatever Tyndale did with this map, it's an imagination of a guy named Tyndale. How true, false, or indifferent is beside the point. It's just a map that is a visual thing for people to have a look at. So again, we've worked right across the southwest, and within the southwest Budjera, what I think we noticed, Mon, was that there's more than 5,000 place names, or place names of Noongar origin. Some of them are full Noongar, some of them are hybrid ones. But in essence, under the native title claim, basically, this is our land. If you don't believe us, read what the signs are and then tell us what they mean, because if you can't tell us what they mean, that means you're a foreigner. As they told the judge that, mate, you're a foreigner, you're here asking us about our country, you can't even speak our language, you don't even know how to do stuff, and you reckon you're the boss of this country. You're not the boss of nothing. We're the boss of our country, and that's the way forward that we will be moving. So So the point is that with 5,000 place names as a minimum across the southwest, it's a really important resource and a tool to educate people. Because I'm going to ask you to put your hand up. How many people in the room speak Noongar? Hands up if you do. Okay, great. Now I'm going to tell you do speak Noongar, but you don't even realise it. All right, and I'm going to ask you, does anyone know what a Panbar Noongar is? She does, and I'm not going to repeat it again. She knows what it is. What I asked was, does anyone know what a purse with no clothes is? Right, so more importantly, you know, everyone know what a quokka is? Yeah. Do you know what a chewit is? Yeah. Marry, a carry? Right. So what I'm saying is that people living in our country, Noongars have manipulated their minds, but they haven't woken themselves up to realise that you're actually in a transition. You're already in a transition to be assimilated into our culture and into our language. And whether you're black, green, red, you know, big, small, tall, whatever, this is everybody's business that we're going to be talking about. So, so today we're going to have a go at cracking some codes, aren't we, Mom?
Yeah, can I just, there's a couple of things that I've put on here that I wanted to add, because when Len has shared them in, you know, various workshops like this before, I think that they really, really sit. And he just gave the example about how we're all speaking Noongar. We're in Joondalup, right? So we're speaking Noongar without speaking Noongar. And there's something that you've said, Len, that the retention of those place names over so many thousands of years is a passive resistance to colonisation. And I just think that that's a really nice point to remember today. And there's a couple of other things in here that I think as we go forward will be really helpful today. And one is that this point here, that they're original, all the Noongar place names are written down by, you know, colonialists or settlers or anthropologists or the Daisy Bates, the Tyndales, etc. So they're written down as they're heard. Right? So they're not written down...
Do you want to do a little test?
Yeah.
All right, everyone got a piece of paper? All right, I want you to write this word down, right? And I'm going to say it once, I'm not going to repeat it. So you listen to what I've got to say and you write it down. The word is Malachine. It's a pretty simple word, very easy. Runs off the tongue beautifully. I think it bangs into people's ears and they hear all sorts of things. The reason why we're doing this, because what Mon was referring to is the colonial records. The colonial record through word lists is a global phenomenon. Doesn't matter where in the world you are, they use word lists to write down to hopefully the outsiders can figure out what the insiders are saying, and hence you have all these place names. So whether you're in Japan, whether you're in Europe, you know, whether you're in Scotland, when the colonials came in, they were trying to write down what the Aborigines were saying, and then so you end up with these different word lists written different ways because it's the individuals that wrote it down. People keep telling me it's to do with linguistics. The Noongars all speak the different languages. I've said I've never heard so much rot in my life. Who wrote those things down? Colonials wrote them down. Noongars never wrote these things down. They spoke it, but the transition into spelling words like Ngalaki. Okay, let's have a look at this lady here. What's her name?
Jade.
Jade, how did you spell Ngalaki?
N-G-K-A-L-I-N-G.
That's not it. How did you spell it?
N-A-L-A-K-I-N.
All right, how did you spell it?
N-U-L-I-K-I-N-G.
All right, so we've got three different ones straight away. I don't need to go to the rest because I know I'm going to get likelihood of getting the same spelling is problematic. So I've already just, I think, confirmed the point that the word lists are up to the individual that wrote them down. And sometimes individuals wrote this way, some of them wrote it that way, some of them wrote it the other way, and sometimes they wrote something that just makes absolutely no sense and was completely they misheard what was said. So we've inherited these documents, and people go to them every day. Waitlers go to them, Noongars go to them, and they seem to have this belief that just because it's written down on a piece of paper, it's true, it's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But in the academy where I work, you never accept anything. It's always under critical question. Right, so this is why we did that little exercise, because we've inherited this resource and we need to untangle and deconstruct the complexity of what's going on so that we get to understand what we're up to. So, yes, I think we dealt with that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. I think this is what you were just talking about now, which is that it's not a linguistic exercise. So I think that's you know, that's just saying not get caught up in it, like you pointed out.
It could be a lot of Boulevard, you never know. Anyone know what Boulevard is? Lots of stories. But unfortunately, even the Noongars have taken that and twisted it through reputable agencies and said, oh, it means many stories. Well, I'm sorry, as a scholar, I went to the databases, I checked it. Out of the 80 citations that I found, without exception, there was about 4 that talked about stories, but it was all in the old English discourse. So if your grandparents said to you, you're telling stories, what are they saying? Okay. So within the context of a deep layer of meaning, that's where the following's light. But they put out this Boulevard here.
Okay. I think that actually leads into, like we've done this before, into this, which is kind of just pulling together the tools and resources that we think we've been able to gather through your work and then working with CAN. So do you want to start?
So again, in the world of academy, you're supposed to construct complex theoretical and problematic notions. So when I was a young bloke, I used to listen to these guys talking, and they were talking about, you know, the theoretical construction of the world, the earth and the universe. And I thought, oh, gee, one day if I could be a theorist. That sounds really interesting. And then I heard these other books, but I'm an applied practitioner of the theoretical dialogues. Oh, that means you apply the theory, and some was just pure theorists. So eventually I realised, well, I'm going to have a crack at theory, and keep in mind what the old people told me many times, and I hear a lot of Noongars talking about. They talk about Buja. Buja is the term for the earth, the ground. It also implies a feminine notion of bujari. If a woman is pregnant, that means she's bujari, so it's connected to the earth. So again, there's different layers of knowledge and meaning in the one word. The kaddish, you've already heard me use that word. Kaddish is knowledge, same as science. So when the big scientists get up and start talking scientific theoretical paradigms, I'm sort of sitting there and okay, that's really interesting. And people get intimidated by scientists. When a scientist says something, who goes, oh, that scientist said it. I'm a scientist, you're a scientist, everyone's a scientist. All science means, you know what it means? What does science mean? It means knowledge. Kaddish, what does that mean, sis? Knowledge. So the equivalence is, so straight away, I'm saying, well, our ancient, you know, knowledge system is equivalent to science. And if you want me to have a talk with science, no worries, I'll talk with science, and vice versa. So, and the more is the family. So the trilogy, the Buja, the land, the knowledge, and the peoples. So that was really the trilogy theory that we were using to unpack and interrogate the concepts. Secondary sources, I think we mentioned that. Wordless, you know, wordless. Secondary sources are anything, you know, whether it's old newspaper articles or, you know, people's diaries or anything, and the wordless, as I've described that. So what I did is I put together a database. I've got the biggest database in the world. As you heard, I saw this idea of Boulevard lip, so I checked it. Bullet made sense, the bar lip was highly questionable, and as a scholar, it's my job to have a public dialogue about it. It's not me wanting to beat people up, but I mean, the state government and the feds pay a lot of money for me to be a professor, and as a public dialogue, I have an obligation to make public comment. Who do I represent? I represent me. So what I did is obviously use the database as we've used the database in this process. And the database is about 25,000 words of historical word lists from across the southwest Woodrow. So I can pick up stuff from as far east as, you know, the other side of Veterans, out to Kellerberrin, I can go to Bunbury, I can go to Albany, whatever, and I can check and double check against what the different Noongars say. Because there is this idea that all Noongars speak different Noongar. Well, we do, but we don't. Because if we're all Noongar, surely we're all speaking the same language. Noongar is Noongar is Noongar. And sure, you've got slight variations, just like when I was in the UK, they speak English. Don't go and say that to the Scots. Tell the Irish. I mean, they'll look like you're a complete idiot. And I think that the idea that we're talking about are global concepts. This is going on right now in the UK. If you don't believe me, go check. You know, the Scots and the other Celts, they've drawn a line through English names, so take it off of our maps and take it back to where you come from, because we've got our own knowledge system, just like what we're talking today. So this isn't just a thing about Australia people, this is in your homelands, in your ancestral homelands. Go back and check where your people come from, and you'll find what we're talking about is exactly the same concepts globally.
and then we get to
Then we've got the
these.
place name. Have you given all that?
Yeah.
Who likes playing cards?
That where he likes saying that when he's working with Noongar people because they all get excited. So these place name cards, and Christy I think is just handing some around for us to have a play with. This is what Can, I guess, brought into the community engagement level of the research. So we took listening to Len over and over and over again, and then went, how do we break this up? How do we break that mind and all of that thinking up so it's accessible, so people can understand and play around with it and then work things out for themselves? So it was really, I think, a bit of a brainwave that breaking these down, and then Christy's kind of, what you've got in your hand now is the latest version. We haven't used these yet. But what I'd like to do is start, I'm just going to go to this slide here, is start and say, I think there's a couple of decks going around, so not everyone will have this card, but has anyone got this card where it's got all the categories on it? So we've got one there, there's one over here. Okay, so the categories are just a way that Christy, when she was looking at the cards and listening to Len and Jerry and Sandra, went, oh, I need a bit of a sorting version. So together they've worked out that all of the words that Len had, well, not all of the words in your word list, which I think you've got 25,000, haven't you? So I think we've kind of, that'll be a very big deck. We've nailed it to about 200 words. They all get put into these categories so that we can sort of find them a little bit later. Do you want to just explain what these?
Yeah, so in the colonial period when the occupation invasion of our country was taking place, they go out with explorers, and so they recruited Noongar experts to go. So people like John Forrest said that he didn't go nowhere without having his Noongar experts with him. They were the best bushmen, the most knowledgeable human beings of this part of the earth, and so John Forrest and Alexander Forrest, they took Noongars with them. So what happened was that when they were documenting the geographical localities across not just the Noongar Bush but elsewhere, they wrote down what the Noongars told them. So places like Katani and others, there's lots of them, were written down. Now what happened was, is that when the colonials wrote the words down, they squashed all the words together into one long thing. But in actual fact, in the place name, sometimes it can be one word, yes, but in other times they're sentences. And so when I was a little boy at Waikana Valley Primary School, the teacher said, write down the cat sat on the mat. Well, I wrote it all in one long line. Yeah. She said, no, that's not what it is. You've got to write the cat sat on the mat. Oh, okay. So what the epiphany was, eventually I realised that what had happened with the place name, so Amanda brought up, do you know, I've seen that big sign? But that's a sentence. But it's not one word. But we've got to deconstruct the sentence into the actual words, so then we can make sense of it. And once you pick up the pattern and the rhyme and the rhythm of doing it, then you realise there's a whole bunch of connecting words in there, there's a whole lot of subject or topic or object or phenomena that you're talking about. And so then we have to, what I call cracking the code. We've got to deconstruct the colonial discourse back into a Noongar model of understanding how it is that we're going to make sense of the place. Hence,
you can talk about the ups and just show that they're already.
So even up on the board, in, that's a sentence. And a little translations are underneath, so you can have a look at these ones. And so here, has anyone ever seen up on the as a it's on the back of the place name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereabouts? Where else?
Karana.
Yeah. All right, so if we today were just able to crack that one word, you become code crackers. You want to go have a go at cracking that one word?
Up.
We're going up.
Place of.
Up where?
It's place of. So, well, yeah, that is a place of. What's word?
Maybe.
I don't know.
You might be dead right or you might be dead wrong.
Oh, wrong.
And the problem is, of course, if like we put you under the gaze and said, prove it, how are you going to prove it?
Yes.
That's the trick. Because in academy, I have to provide the evidence that informs the claims that I'm making. Otherwise, what sort of professor am I? Just makes up crap and we don't know whether it's a storyteller or a bullshit or what he is. And that's the reality. I have to be subject to serious interrogation. As a professor at a university, I just can't make cock and ball yarns about this means more about it. People are going to be on me like that, and I'm sure of. Hence, it's a good comment to make, but the challenge is prove it.
Can you?
I can. And I'm proving it because I'm a Noongar, and you can never challenge a Noongar, can you? And Noongars, like everybody else, is subject to challenge. And this is where the tricky dialogue happens.
Okay, so now I've just put Katani up because I thought it's something that we've done and we can explain through this.
So we went down and had a chat with the leadership pretties there at Katani. I mean, that's their country. We're not, but I've got responsibility and diplomacy to go to them and speak to them. I just don't go marching across their country and talking about their business. That's not my business, that's their business. And so me and one had to go and do a diplomatic dialogue. They said, yeah, we want you to come back and do some more work. And hence we went into a process to say, okay, in and around Katani, there's a bunch of Noongar place names. And we talked about it with the group and we said, yeah, okay, we want you to come back and we want to go into a dialogue and a process one at the meeting.
And Lee, I just want to let people know a little bit about that process before you get into the unpacking, is that and Jerry was a part of this and worked with Len on it, and so did Brooke Small, that there were over 30 elders who came along and were part of that engagement. So Len brought in his, remember that the areas that we said before, the database, the word list, the historical documents, etc. So we brought all that in, and Len started with exactly what he said before, which is who speaks Noongar? Where's the cultural knowledge in the group? Bring that forward first and acknowledge the Buddhists that they have the knowledge, they have the courage, and they have they're responsible and they're in charge. And I think that respect, which is sort of natural for you, of course, because that's your cultural protocols, but it meant that the group were really open to building consensus, which hadn't been done in Katani before. There were lots of different names being thrown around and meanings, and people couldn't come together, which is why they asked us to come and do this project, so that they could build consensus. So the way, this is one part of it, but then the way that Len and Can worked through that with the elders meant that we could get to the other end, which I've got a picture of later.
Yeah, so the first thing we did is I know that they speak and hold knowledge. So I didn't say, let's go to the linguist, let's go look at the books. Don't touch that stuff. We want to talk first. So the first thing is I said, well, which place do you want to pick on? They picked on a couple of spots, and obviously Katani was one of them. And of course there was some speculation. For example, some people said Katani is not a Noongar word, and others said Katani means where the kangaroos do backflips and roller coaster rides and come on. It's all a great story, but what we said is, okay, now we've got to focus on, in actual fact, what is it? So what I then did is I said, well, listen, what I want to try and do is I just want to pull the thing apart so we can have a look at each word within the sentence. So the first one I said, does anybody know what this word is? Does anybody know what it is?
Yeah.
Jerry knows what it is. Oh, yeah, no, we know what that is. Okay. No worries, because remember, we don't have to go to the documents. We just go to our 50 million year brain cells to make them work. So I said, okay, well, I said, well, does anyone know what a dar is? And of course, some people weren't sure, some said, well, I've heard the word, but I'm not really sure about it. So we went, and then I asked, well, does anyone know what meat means? And so what happens is partially, some of them knew what some of the words, and of course others didn't know what the other words were. But what I do know, there were people sitting in the team, including Jerry, that didn't know what these words were. So we use the oral dialogue as the first and most important step in the process. Do not go to documents, don't go to the websites, don't look in history books, leave all that aside. Budi Kadijin Mitchell Katani Budjura, Nandaling Nuna, Natmita, Nalakuring Hawk Kadij. We're talking our language in our space. We reject the foreign influences from outside. So when we looked at it, I mean, the translations are here, so it's a bit weird. I'm saying you know what it is when the answer's in front of your face. What's going on here? The first word in the word Katani, because that's how it's spelled on the official place naming, on the signs that you drive around. And so we said, well, okay, if we break it down, we end up with 4 words. And so the first word is the object or the subject or the phenomenon or the topic that you're talking about. In this case, you're talking about cart. And the word cart is there, your head or your heel or on top of, blah, blah, blah. So the tar was the second word, tar, nini, so the access or the entrance to the head, and then pay attention, and ing, situated in this location. Now the point is that we could spell and write this Katani 57 different ways if we wanted to, no problem. Right? But what we negotiated with the bosses of the Cottage and Briddy in Katani was this was what we negotiated. And what we did is we said we have to write it all different ways, because in Academy I've got to cover and provide us a broader understanding and way of interpreting as I can. I can't just run a thin line, and if someone says, oh, what if you spell it this way or the other way? Well, yeah, we already know that. So part of our process was to look at possible alternate spellings. That's what we're looking at. But all roads lead to pay attention. This is where the head is located in Katani. Now, what did it have to do with in the bigger picture? Of course, I read things. You're supposed to read things in a cabinet. I don't read things. I'm not sure where supposed to get data from, but I also listen and use other means to gather knowledge. So the thing was, I knew from the past that there were some history books, the history of Katani, written by whatever his name was. Merle Bignell, maybe, no, I think you're right there, one further. But anyway, whoever it was. And in the book I know, that because I read it 20 years ago, there was a story about a dream-time narrative and blah, blah, blah. A guy named Mulga and his missus. Mulga was a really bad guy, done the wrong thing, the Noongar's got together, so we're going to execute him because what he's done is so off the planet. And people might say, yeah, that's a pretty serious thing to execute someone. Yeah, it is, but in the old law, it was pretty clear. You knew what to do, you breached it, and this was the implication of it. So in the old school, raping and murdering and killing people, it was so serious that, right, that's it, he's done. And so they hunted this bloke, they executed him, and then what they did is they deconstructed his body and scattered it everywhere. And so if you go to Katani, the only of Katani, there's a whole lot of body parts right around in and around the location of Katani, including the head. Now, if you go there to Noongar today, they don't like sleeping out in the bush out there because they still know that bloke's walking around. And so when we started talking about it, you could tell that there were some pretty sort of jumpy people in the room. Oh, if you talk about this bloke, you might come to my house tonight, blah, blah, blah. So we had to be, really cognizant of that. But here's a couple of different versions that we used. And if you notice here, there's a whole bunch of other spelling models. That's just drawn from the database to say, well, look, listen, all these different guys wrote the word card in different ways. But at the end of the day, we do need to know what it's referring to. And as you'll notice, Nick is spelled differently. You can get N-I-A, N-I-E, N-E. So there's all these different spellings, and it's really to do with the individual that wrote them down. So nothing to do with linguistics. It's got not a lot to do with Noongars other than Noongars told them the words. And of course, could Noongars read and write in the days when they shared the stuff? Which, I don't know, maybe they did.
So all I'm going to add to that, Len, is that when Len says that there's all those body parts there, what the community did was they unpacked, I think you guys unpacked about 15 different place names, and all of the place names were body parts. So Martina is leg, Jenina, what, is that right? I'm not looking because I'm really bad at this. Jenina, Cockline.
Donk up. So straight away you hear it's donk up. That up is there all the time. The location of the ear, the head, the nose, the teeth. It's there. So so someone said, but where did you get this data from? Well, it's in our knowledge. So, for example, a word, since we use it all in our life, bull up, the location of that person. So it was always in our language. But it's in the written stuff, so obviously we checked against what the written stuff's like. Okay, it confirms what we were saying in the first place.
So you can see how all this comes together with that simple example, and we've done it over and over and over. I mean, Len's obviously done it academically, but now we've done it over and over with communities. And if I just talk about the art of this, so Karen Hesse, Natalie Schultz, Brooke Small, Jerry and the elders out in Katani all came together with the schools and different community members who wanted to participate and created these shoe puppets of Jinda and Mulka that are bigger than the ceiling, yeah? They're beautiful, massive puppets. And they had the little kulbaris, which are the magpies. that attack and are a part of the story. So that story is going to come out when the community are just finessing a few things and getting a few things right, and then they want to share that when they're ready to. But there's a short video coming out and a beautiful oral story that they presented as well.
And just to say that the only bit I did was do the code cracking and then I walked away because it's there. Once people were happy and confident that what we'd done was, was up to scratch on their KPIs, well, it's right. Your college country, you do whatever you're going to do. You draw the pictures, you get the songwriting.
You don't let him do art.
So I can go back to
But when he says he walked away, that's the million emails a week going, can you just check this? Can you just check this? So he didn't quite walk away, but yeah. But we certainly kept him away from this.
So obviously Len wasn't part of the...
So I think, Len, just to, this is kind of the quick sample. This is a real taster. I mean, obviously these workshops go over weeks and sometimes months to get to the heart and this last bit of building consensus. But you've seen, we've spoken about breaking down the word, we've spoken about the word list, the cards, the verification, which is everyone in the room using all those steps that Len said, and then that's how we build consensus where the Buddhists get to decide what do we agree based on all of that this place means to us. What's the deconstruction of that? And then I'm not going to do that, Len. I thought maybe we can do the exercise that you mentioned, which is where people get to play with cards and make a word.
Yeah. So go back to yelling up. I mean, I can go back and find documents I did 30 years ago when I was wrong, and that's part of the learning. I made errors of yelling up the letter was a place of love. Well, in hindsight, I know that, well, it is a bloody lovely place, and there's lots of love that goes down the yelling up. So the next time you're working with a girl who says, let's have yelling up, people got more on their mind rather than go. But, so the thing about it is, here's just an example of what we're trying to crack down. But I said to mine, no, let's do it live. So does anybody want to see if we can crack a code or something?
So everyone's got some words in front of them, like some cards generally, so good.
So who wants to crack the code of a place name?
Basically, you get to make your own Noongar place name right now.
Oh, we can make one up?
Yeah.
Well, if you've got one off the top of your head, well, let's work on that and then we'll have to go and make up a completely new one.
I got one. Let's say Meow Genokini.
Alright, stand in front of the crew and shout. So this is her. Now this woman here as well, she's a learned Noongar speaker. She's been around Noongar for a million years. She knows the word backwards and fronts and up and side down. And so now she's going to reveal this ancient knowledge that she's always been conveying.
Alright, so Meow Genokini.
Anybody can translate it?
Can you tell us?
Meow Genokini.
So meow, Jenok, Inu. Jerry, you should be saying that.
So the eyes. Now, I think it's myself, because I mean, Marcel said to listen, and she's saying, well, I know all those words. So what I keep saying is, how do you get the validity? Well, it's the language features will give you validity. Sometimes it's conflicted, sometimes there's different opinions and expressions and interpret that's okay. But I mean, straight away, Marcel says, well, I know what the first one is. What was it? See, or your eyes? Janok is a devil, evil spirit. Yini. Sitting over there. So what I'm saying is, there's people in the room that are actually confirming and validating what we're saying. So this is the irony of it is that when me and my wife come back from Melbourne one time, said, love, let's stop at this lovely bed and breakfast spot. It's called Janagara or something or other. And I said, no, they're going to stay there. Unless they're into devil worship, of course. They're into that. They believe in God, they believe in the devil.
It says ghosts, which I thought was a whole
Same thing.
Ghosts or devils or
ghosts.
What about a place name on the maps? Anybody got one you want to try and crack?
Oh, yeah.
Jenagapi. Jenakabine.
Jenakabine.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want to write?
that's with Jenakabine, that's our near beat or something.
Jonkabine.
No,
Yeah, you go to Jonkabine.
Okay, so what's your Jenna? I'm not going to go into the cards.
Jenna.
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 Foot. Four bone. Yeah, so the INE at the end is the situated here or the location, and the middle bit. Well, we've got yeah. So we have to do a little bit of work, but it could be spelled and written in other ways, but it could be talking about maybe. Or might be good, or water or something, but it's talking about a foot trail going to some location.
Lynn, when I came across it, I thought it was like Jenna Guppy, which is featherfoot, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that you can interpret it a number of different ways, but you've got to keep looking to see whether or not the claims that we're making is. So the Jenna Guppy, which is to do with the foot and the feathers, is the executioners. They put the feathers on their feet so you can't track them, you can't see their footprint.
Yeah. I'd love to know what muck and booting means.
Right, nobody. Well, that, I mean, well, the iron at the end is the situated here. I mean, Mookie might be a bird or an animal or something. I don't know. I'd have to do more work on it. Mook and how do you say again? Mark and wood. Bort means nothing, or none, or something like that. Yeah. So again, if we had more time to go through the process, we could hopefully unpack it and get it closer. But as you can see, by separating Jenna, Cook, Vine, there's 3 words. We've just got to figure out what the 3 words. We know the first one. We kind of know what the second one is. The middle one is yet to be unpacked properly.
Can we do
I'm happy to concede we're not going to pack all the codes in 6 down here.
But it's good we're making it work. It's great.
One more?
Mandagudara? The Mandagudara in Mandra?
Mandagudara.
No, Mandagudara. Well, the Manda, or the Manda, is the gathering of where people meet during the Canberra, which is now. The Manda is the gathering of the people. What was it, Manda?
It reminded of food. The gathering.
Well, implicit at the gathering of people. You cannot say people come to my house and have a party. You don't supply no tucker, you don't supply no bloke. I mean, sorry. You're not supplying that, what the hell are you inviting to come? So, what was, how did you say
Mandagudara. I think it's got Mandagudara.
Did you write that down? Yeah, so what's your core? Your core? How would you say Pura is your lover? Sorry, your brother. But in Noongar it's your lover. So when the Yamiji say, hey, Pura, Pura, call me something else, but that's where the 2 things came together. And what was the last bit of Manda? That up location. So it's the location of the gathering of the tribes or the families or the community, and implicit that is when you go to these meetings. Yeah. So when you go to these meetings, you're likely to run into your future in-laws or your mothers or your husband or your wife, which is what happens when you go to big parties. So if you go to Mandra.
We're almost about out of time, so I'm just going to wind up with a couple of things. First of all is, I'll skip that because that's more for people who are doing the workshops, but is the where to from here, because I just want to share, I mean, I'm really excited at seeing everyone's engagement today, because it's like you guys are excited as I get, when Christy will be feeling the same. Like we get, this is just fascinating stuff that we're all, that is all of our business to learn, as Len reminds us all the time. Len, or not Len, I should say UWA, and CAN are at the moment putting in a grant to extend the research, and Len's got the place names team at CAN that I mentioned before, as well as a whole heap of really fantastic young academics that have worked with Len in the past that are going to make up that team. So fingers crossed that grant comes through, because that means that all of the stuff that we're talking about can get extended throughout Noongar country for another 5 years in terms of research. So that's where that part of it's going from the community engagement, the arts side. As I said, we're working in Fremantle at the moment to watch that space. And if you want to know more about that, definitely talk to Christy and Jerry today and find out more about that as well. I'm just going to put this up and then I'll let you wind up. Which is stop. Stop. That wasn't even my son. Okay. So I think this is really nice to finish with, Glenn.
Yeah, so I think, how do you enliven the country and the people and the knowledge is by engaging it and speaking it and talking through it. It brings it to life. A piece of paper sitting in an archive is just a piece of paper sitting in an archive. And the challenge is that we need to learn how to meaningfully engage in our country so that, that we're not having this conversation 3 generations in the future with your great grandkids and saying, man, how come I don't know how to learn and understand these things? Because the responsibility lies now with you. Now, some of you are going to have kids, you've already had kids, and your kids are going to have kids in the future, and the buck stops with the heads of the family. It lies with the women, it lies with the blokes to take responsibility and not allow another generation of people going on and being ignorant in the understanding of what it means to be an Australian. Through using the place names, I think is one of the ways that we can start to create the evolution back to the governance model under nation status.
Hang on, just got a quick question. What does Betty mean?
We are going to go to questions. All right, so I'll give you Yep, sounds good. I'm going to let Ron.
Thank you. We might as well start with Iris's question.
It was on that slide.
Yeah.
Noongar cultural beauty.
Beauty is a track. So, the Katani beauty is a knowledge track.
Yeah.
Also, the Noongar Katani beauty is the people's knowledge trail. And the Moravian beauty, the family's trail. So it's a word which is absolutely central to the dialogue. So what trail are you on? Which beauty, which track or trail are you travelling on? And the basis of the West Australian roadways in the southwest, they're all been built on by what we see today as Albany Highway and whatnot. They're the ancient Katani beauties. They're the ancient knowledge trails. Because now, put it this way, if you're an outsider coming into some public place, you're going to follow the trails that are already there. We're going to go walking and fight your way through the bush. You most follow the Noongar trails and take you somewhere. If you want to go into the bush, good luck.
Next question, please. Costa, any questions from online?
Yeah, I've got a couple online. So we have one from Susan, who's messaged in from Walyala. She was wondering, I'll just read it verbatim. I'm interested in the names of Jera, birds, on Noongar Budna, and whether they follow the same naming process.
Birds follow the same naming process.
What's that?
Birds.
Birds.
So as an example, she gives like Kajina for grey fantail.
I couldn't give an answer straight off the top of my head, but yeah, we can pass that up. So whether it's birds or trees or plants or flowers or hills or rivers or streams.
Right.
And sometimes there's a gap in the people's knowledge and there's gaps in the database. So people say, but how do you resolve that? Well, make it up.
Would you say, would it be true then that do birds have the same unpacking or deconstructing? Then are they essential?
Yeah, good question. Actually, it was funny, a German lady wrote a book about honey and gold. And she wanted me to write a little, something or other. I said, well, I'm not really interested in writing about gold, but I'm interested in writing about honey. So the black and white copy, does anyone know what that Newman's called that bird? Alright, now that's the one the red colour asked about, the black and white one. No, that's a magpie. That's a big black and white copy. So what do I just call it? The
Carnaby's coffee.
yeah, the carnaby. There's two of them.
Carnaby's.
I'm talking about those ones. So Newman's call that bird a muyak. So the first word is separate, just like the other stuff, separate the birds' names and everything else. So the mud, that one there is referring to honey, mud yuck, and the back end is connected to that honey. And so the black and white cocky, if you watch what they do, they go to the flowers, they go to the nuts, and they crack them open with their big beaks and smash open after the honey. So it's the one that's attracted to the honey. So, you know, the Kurubati, which is a great question, Kurubati, that what Noongar's call the magpie, and you're going to call it that too, because magpies can go. So Kuru, the first word Kuru means to move, or the action, or movement of, and what's a Bardi?
Grub.
A grub. That's the one that gets the grubs. So the Noongar's name it according to what it does. One goes to the honey, one goes to the Bardis. So again, we could do a whole discourse and critique and analysis around jitters or
Do you know what
is it?
Kawara?
Sorry?
Do you know Kawara, like Kawarama?
Kawara?
Kawara, the Kawara.
Yeah.
Kawarama? Do you know what he?
Yeah. It's the place of the blue parakeets. So what's beautiful about, and maybe try to keep an eye on our time.
We are watching it.
Yeah, the reason why I came to CAN in the first place is I knew I had the database, but what I didn't have was the community engagement model. And years ago, I saw the work that these folk did on the Calaveran one, and I thought that was the most magnificent thing that I've ever seen. And I thought, wow, imagine if we could crack the codes of all the place names across the southwest. The art community can get engaged, the local government community can get engaged, the schools can get engaged. So that, to me, there was no stakeholder that wouldn't benefit from this process. So I just want to acknowledge that the work that CAN be doing out at Katani, to me, that was revolutionary. So if you can imagine, if we got back to the original, one of the original hopes and desires is to build a cultural narrative and a capacity to run an economy into Calaveran based upon its Noongar origins. It kind of worked, but it didn't. And so that's still on the cards. And a lot of those little communities and little towns in the wheat belt and elsewhere that are really struggling to generate some economic resource which is different to somebody else, I think the answer lies in the place name and its Noongar origins. Yeah, place to look at there.
Yeah, I knew that. Sorry, but
What you asked me for?
Costa, did you want to follow up with one more from?
I've got a couple online. I'm happy to sort of switch.
Oh, we'll do one more and then we'll finish the slate.
Okay, great. So we've got one from Stacey from Yallinga, and she missed, I think there was a discussion about Yallinga, and she just missed the meaning of that, if we could.
The place to come to this location, but you'd have to go to the Wardown Centre and check with
right.
The web family and stuff like that. Because you can tell we're talking into other people's country, and I'm cognizant of that. So what I can answer it, but really the other answer is we've got to go talk to the bosses and go through the place meaning stuff with them, so that we're not just talking about the theory of being good and blah blah blah. You've got to practice what you're preaching. So if I don't do that, I've got a problem. So you're running around colonise everyone else's knowledge and talking things up, yet you're not engaging the bosses.
Fair point. And just one more from New Zealand. We have Jamie.
New Zealand?
Yeah. They would like to know what connection you've had with Māori in New Zealand, and when it comes to the significance of place names and Indigenous culture, if any.
Oh, so we can say kia ora, tēnō, kanei, I think it is, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I'm good at here, the Maori. And I think I've been to Aotearoa, and I've talked to the Māori over there. I mean, their country has absolutely got their names on it, and they're in the same process. So my imagination is, yeah, we could do an international collaboration, because the Aborigines of the globe, the Celts, the Irish, the Māori, the Aborigines in Australia, everybody is onto this. It's got nothing to do with racism and brought us in Australia. This is a global revisiting of the ancients back to their homelands, to their knowledge systems to unpack it. Because we've ended up in a world where we don't know whether the news is false, indifferent or true or whatever, and we don't really have any tools or capacity to unpack it, which is the beauty of the model that we've been engaged in. And are we subject to criticism? Absolutely. If you think you've got a critical question to ask, to say, no, you're wrong, you're right, or whatever, ask it. We're not ashamed about that. We're human beings. Sometimes we get it absolutely right, and sometimes we get it absolutely halfway right.
We have yours and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask what the difference was then with Albany, because obviously that's got 2 names, whereas Katani kind of broke down his name.
Albany had 2 names.
Kinjali, you mean, and Albany?
Yeah.
Well, Albany is the colonial name, and Kinjali is one of the other
Yeah.
words. Now, and just to remind people, one place can have 57 different names. That's the point. But the point is, we were just looking at the data on the Landgate websites and what the signs on the side of the road. So,
So how did you break that down, I guess is what I'm asking, like Katani?
Kinjali.
Yes.
Kinjali.
But how
It might be
did you
4 or might be 3.
Oh, we didn't. So we only do the Noongar name. So because Albany is a colonial name, we didn't. But we did look at Kinjali with the elders and, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the last one is this lady here, and then we'll wind it up. Yeah.
Mine's quite quick. It's more to do with you and your knowledge, because I'm gaining a lot from how you express all these things. It's like I've had these ideas a lot all over the place, and then while you're talking, it kind of is coming down to a nice, clear explanation. Where can we find like your books or your things or that might help?
Google link colors. Google search will come to a peer review, do a review of something. You know, in the library, you know, track it down. There's tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think in both the Arts Front page when you registered, we have put some links there from the SIS website and some of your other websites. So that's a starting point, but yes, that's obviously the main.
Yeah.
And the CAN,
But
sorry,
also,
Michelle.
just to make the point that the research grant is also about extending and making the database more accessible.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And
Michelle.
I was just going to say Noongarpedia.
Oh yeah, Noongarpedia.
Yeah, there's that too, that's right.
Yeah, and the last one to find out is if you look at Len Collard UWA profile, it's got all that publication.
Including that one.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, guys, I want you to think about the nature of how it is that our colonial pictures have come home to roost. And how that's flipping and changing. And all you mob got change videos, all you mob got change people you can go back and check up on. Might only be 1 link or 2. Might not be some. And all go back and check down on your own stories. Suss out who you are. And get a sense of where you put your Jenna down on this bit of country. All right.
We have these back.
Christine's
up the back going, I need them back. She's just got them, so once we work them out, I'm sure we'll find ways to share them, but we're still working out how to use them on what questions we have.
Right. Now's the chance where I get to be a big meanie up here and say, hey, bring him up. This is a good chance before you go off to the next space. Take your cards out of here and fill them in. And pass them to somebody else. While you're doing that, I'm just going to explain what's going to happen next. You're going to go on to the karate path next for the rest of the next session. Oh, sorry, I'm too far away. Folks, you're going to go on to the karate hub next. You're going to, of course, join again with Gary Hayden and Doll making others down that way. Okay. You also can take part in your badge making. Or I'm sorry, no, I'm so angry I made a sign.
This one.
Yeah, that's all coming out. Sorry, coming out next to. So we're going to move to the creative hub after this. Okay. You're going to go down into that space from 1 o'clock.
Back here at 1.
Back here at 1.
Yeah, lunch.
And then lunch is down at the creative hub. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, thank you. Grab some refreshments also, you can get your drinks, other bits and pieces, of course, back behind here. Lunch is down there at the Creative Hub, back here by 1 p.m. You can take one of those. Thank you, folks. Thank you. another place. I see you've been busy. Oh, you're She got me.
Ed, you like that? You like that? Trouble is, once you get started, that's where you're going. It takes a long time to process it.
You think I say I'm here because I'm the MC?
It's a whole new way of thinking. I haven't given it another one. Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't, yeah, that's it. Don't get one minute.
There's a lot of Awesome.
I'll see you, Sean.
Ready? All right. All good? Okay. Hello and welcome to our first purely online session. If you've been in the chat, this is Costa with the eyebrows, as I was referred to before by Len. I'm here to introduce our next session. So I guess the question to reflect on as we start this is, have you ever wondered what it would be like to speak one of the oldest languages in the world? You won't have to wonder anymore, because our next session via live stream is Lullabies, led by Noongar linguist and musician Charmaine Counsellor and Noongar singer-songwriter Phil Bartlett. Lullabies is a 5-year integrated arts and language program specifically designed for Noongar parents, babies and grandparents, providing the basis for learning Noongar and transferring the language into creative outcomes, including songwriting, storytelling and doll making. Lullabies is produced by Can in collaboration with Noongar elders and their families, and is supported through the Australian Government's Indigenous Languages and Arts. So I would officially love to welcome Phil and Charmaine. For those of us in the room, will they hear us? Great. Phil and Charmaine, before I hand over the floor to you both, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you became involved in the program.
Can you hear us? Hello?
I can hear you, Sean.
Hello?
Maybe a bit louder.
Hello? My name's Charmaine Counsellor. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, I got involved with the Lullabies project in 2018, and I've previously had experience working with another project that was based in Bunbury, and I was approached by the CAN team and to look at developing languages lullabies in Noongar language. So my journey started from there, and I was working with the language centre at the time, the Noongar Butcher Language Centre, and so we did a partnership with our centre and with CAN, and we were successful in recording 19 songs in 2018. And then since then, I was approached again to do another project, and that's where I invited Phil to come along, and then we did the Mandurah project, and now we're here now doing another one here.
Thanks, Charmaine. Over to you, Phil.
Hiya, everybody. How are you all? If you don't know what kaya means, it means hello in Noongar. Can everybody say that for me? Kaya? 1, 2, 3. Kaya.
Kaya.
Beautiful. That's a good word to remember. Kaya is it's used quite often. You can say when someone's knocking on your door and they're a friend. When they come in, you can say Kaya Wanju, because Kaya Wanju means hello, welcome. My name's Phil Bartlett, and I've been playing music and performing well over 30 years now, 32, 33 years. I'm a Noongar man. I'm from the Wajak area. Wajak is the Swan River, the Derby area. And on my father's side, I'm Balladon, which is kind of more up towards the hills. Yeah, I've been a musician for some time, and I've been lucky enough last year to have been asked by Charmaine if I would be interested in coming to do a project with lullabies in Cairn. And I said, what is it? She said, well, Phil, it's about language. We're writing songs in language. And I said, yeah. And my Noongar language at that time was good, but it wasn't the greatest because I was actually growing up. I knew lots of different words. But stringing a sentence together was, couldn't really do that because I didn't have the knowledge. So in the last 2 years, I've been learning Noongar language, my language. I've learned so much from Charmaine, and this Lullabies project, I've learned so much because I've had no choice but to learn. So it's been a real privilege for me to be a part of last year, and this year we're sort of in the process, halfway through the process of recording a whole bunch of songs. I think there's about 13 songs that we're recording. So yeah, it's really great to be here today, and looking forward to getting this end product done and making it beautiful for everybody to listen to.
Great. Thank you so much. I believe the floor is officially yours now, so over to you officially.
So we were having a discussion about how would we like to explain what the lullabies is all about, and rather than just telling you about it, we hope we might want you to join in with us today, and we would like to do some activity or do an activity with you today that you may be able to learn a song in Noongar language. But before that, we have to get you guys to feel safe, to feel in a comfortable zone, so that you'll be able to listen, hear, and be able to feel confident in saying the words and repeating them. So before we go any further, I do have a little slide that I would like to open up the session with. And this is what we did with the participants that we've just worked with previously in the last 10 weeks. So we have a very structured program that we allow the participants to come into a safe space where they feel comfortable, and then we'll be able to share how we're feeling that day, talk about, are you feeling well, how do you feel, and at the end of the sessions we always ask them, how do you feel now after you've done at least an hour and a half of language content or language learning. And we've been very confident that it's been very positive at the end of each session, and people feel really excited and they want to learn more. So I'm going to pretend that you're my students today, and Phil and I are going to be your instructors in language. And we like to say facilitator, because you never know who knows some language out there. All right, so I'm going to go show a slideshow, if I may, and bear with me with the sharing the screen. We're still learning technology. Okay, so I'm going to share. I'll just make sure this is done. And so, can you all see that? If someone can give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
Oh, I can see a thumbs up in the corner there.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
You're doing
Hey. So this is our screen that we start off with every week when we teach a Noongar lesson. So we say, welcome to Noongar Lullabies. And this is our Learn Language Online. And this has been a very special program, and the first of its kind, because since the isolation that we've experienced through COVID-19, this is the only way that we could connect with our participants. So we had to be learning through a virtual way of learning on screen. Okay, so I'll just click the next screen. So before we start a lesson, we always have to acknowledge our elders, past and present. And just a brief description of Can's acknowledgement. And so we would read this out every week. So Can acknowledges the Noongar people of the Bibbulmun Nation, and that's also can be incorporated as Noongar Nation as well. So you might have heard these two terms somewhere in it within your community. And we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and honour all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as the first people of this nation. CAN is proud to work with people from all cultures, but we do so on the understanding of the First Peoples. First Peoples first, sorry. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land, and that's the NAIDOC theme for this year. And this is very important that we make sure that we have acknowledgement about the orthography or the spelling system that we use in Noongar today. So this is a very important clause that we have. We acknowledge that the spelling and the interpretation of Indigenous language can vary greatly from community to community. So not one set of rules may cater for everyone across the board. So we have to be very careful how we work with our community and then take on the advice from the community that yes, we see that spelt that way, but we've been used to spelling it this way. So that's very important to always make people feel that they do have the opportunity to contribute to their spelling system. So I thought I wanted to show how can we translate always was and always will be. So I did some research, and this is how we would say it in Noongar language. Kaya kur kwajabi, kaya kur budabi. And that means always was and always will be. And then I've just got to move my screen here. Sorry, guys. There we go. That's what it translates as. Kaya kur kwajabi, kaya kur budabi. Always was, always will be. And we would add on the end, Noongar buja. So it sounds like this. Kaya kur kwajabi, kaya kur budabi, Noongar buja. I might get you to repeat that with me, if you will. Kaya kur kwajabi, kaya kur budabi. If you said that, well done, congratulations. That's your first bit of Noongar that you spoke today. Well done. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Now, most important before we start a program, we've got to set some ground rules. How do we engage with our community? How do we make them feel safe? Because it's not very common that we do have opportunities to come and learn our language maybe for the first time or to revisit language for the first time. We may have some language experience, and sometimes language experience can be varied, whether it's a positive experience or has it been a traumatic experience. As you will know, across the nation, many of our Aboriginal people were forbidden to speak their languages because of past policies. So children were forbidden to carry on the language, the culture, and of course, hence the stolen generation was a big factor of that. So we have to now come together, and how do we come together and to say it's okay to learn your Noongar language again? You know, you're not going to be chastised. You're not going to be said, oh, you're saying it wrong, or you shouldn't say that. You know, so we have to make sure that our participants that may have those experiences to say it's safe now. No one's going to tell you not to speak your language. No one's going to tell you, say that that's a bad language. It's forbidden. So now it's trying to bring people out of that traumatic experience and to celebrate what was theirs in the first place, their given right. And something that was thousands and thousands of years old was their birthright. And so what we did, we came up with a concept called Ngabalangunda. And our group love this, don't they, Phil? Ngabalangunda. And I think this is Phil's favourite word, Ngabalangunda.
Ngabalangunda.
There you go, Ngabalangunda. He just loves it. So what we did is that we said, well, this means safety, and actually it's translated as safety. So we think it was a fantastic concept that we could use and to abide by. So what we did, as you can see around the screen, we have phrases or some key words that we asked the participants to be able to share. If you wanted to create the safe space online, how do we do that? How do we revisit that every week? So what we did was drew from the participants, what do you think Ngabalangunda would mean to you? Some would say help each other. No wrong questions. That was very important. Learning, respect, definitely participation, safety, kindness, and understanding was the key one. Help each other, encouragement, listen to each other, share, and I suppose mainly sharing without judgment, because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. Oh, I don't know whether to share that or should I? And sometimes 9 times out of 10, you're pretty spot on. It's just that it's the confidence. How do you step out of your comfort zone into an unfamiliar language that you've said that's been forbidden for these to speak, or it's something that you fear? So you've got to step out of your comfort zone. And listening to what Phil was saying, when he first came onto the project, he had no choice. He had to learn the language to be able to participate, to be able to help others, and to be able to facilitate language through melody. So, and I'm sure Phil can, he's got lots of more experiences he could share. And what I've been very proud with Phil is that he took on that challenge, and he has grown so much in just over a year. So, and what was the most positive thing was people started to identify with the language. They started to identify to their family, land, kinship, and relationships. So we'll just move on. So that's called Ngabala Ngunda. Ngabala Ngunda, if you'd like to say that. Ngabala Ngunda. Could you repeat it for us, Phil?
Ngunda.
Again?
I love the word Ngabala Ngunda. It's good. That when we say goodbye to someone, or when we say see ya, first thing we say is, all right, catch us later. Stay safe. It's the same thing as when we say Buddha means see ya or goodbye. And then at the end of it, you say Ngabla Ngunda, which means see you later, stay safe, or safety first. So Buddha, Ngabla Ngunda. It's one of my favourite words, because a lot of people don't know that. So the more you say it, it has that little ripple effect. Someone else will learn it, then someone else will learn it, and then before you know it, the circle of friends or the circle of people that you hang around or that you catch up with from time to time, they're actually saying it quite a bit. So, and I've seen it grow. So that's the beauty in this language. So,
and it's like Phil said, it's a great bonding experience. That it's like it's a bond that's connected now, and it's going to last, because as soon as someone says Ngabla Ngunda, hey, you must be part of that lullabies group. So, like Phil said, just to recap on that. All right, we might move on, and there we go. So when we started to introduce lullabies, we had to come up with some language for people to be able to feel comfortable with and to learn. And so what we did, we came up with some word lists. And as you can see, it's not a big dictionary that you see on the screen. It's actually only a few words that we thought will be the basis around creating songs and around lullabies. So as you can see in the top left-hand corner, Marwit means baby. So we know that we're going to sing about babies right through this series. Mort, family. We're going to sing about family, of course. And then what we did is we established relationships in Noongar language so that we can use them to write our lyrics. So we have Ngank for mother, Marman for dad. As you can see, we've got two versions of the word for father, Marman and Mumbart. And of course, some of our participants have come from different areas of Noongar country, and so they might come with a different dialect. And sometimes the dialects do have different spellings to each other, so, and may sound a little bit different, but they're both Noongar words. Then we have other things like Kedlark, nighttime. We assume that everyone goes to sleep at night. Norp for boy, York for girl, Kurang for child. Then on the right-hand side of our screen on the list, we have Kulangar for children. And then we have Moirin for grandfather. And we have Gubberly for grandmother. And gubbly is just such a lovely word. People just love that one. We've used it quite a bit through our songwriting. Jinda, star, Mika for moon. And we also, again, we have two dialects there, Mika and Miak, and that's for moon. And then we have Quabradak. Quabradak's a very popular word these days in Noongar language. It means beautiful. And then we have whirl, sky. Whirl is particularly important because we know stars sit in the sky, moons in the sky. So we just wanted people to feel comfortable with just such a short little list, but you'd be amazed how much language can get out of this little list and how we develop language. So what we decided to do was ask each participant to at least pick 4 words that they may see on the list or other words that they may know of. And then let's create verses from there. So just want to check with time how we're going. If you can give us a heads up there, Costa, if we're doing all right. No, can't hear him. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, now this is where we're going to learn a song together. Okay, now in our last lullaby project, this is in Mandra project, we created a song, and this song's called Rosie's Song. And can you all see that on the screen, everyone?
All good.
All good? Yes?
Yes. Can you hear me now, Charmaine?
Yes, I can. I just couldn't hear you
great.
earlier.
I'll stay here.
Yeah, please stay there.
Yes.
Can everyone give a shout out there to us? Is that possible? Oh, you're still awake? Okay, I'm going to get you to say some words, and I want you to have the audio open so that I can hear you, so that we know we're all still alive there, still going. Okay, so if you can see that song on the screen, Costa, just give us a hoy, so that's fine. Everybody can see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lovely. Okay, as I'll repeat now, this is Rosie's song, and this is a very special song because this was dedicated to a beautiful lady that revived her language for the first time. And this lady, her name is Rosie, and that's why we call it Rosie's song. And it took her a while to feel comfortable about relearning her identity, learning about herself as a Noongar woman, because Rosie was taken away at a very young age. And Rosie grew up speaking French, speaking Dutch, and all these other different languages. And Noongar was the last on the list. So when Rosie came, it took her a long time to get involved and to feel comfortable sharing and talking about herself. And Phil would surely would add to this story. And when we started yarning to Rosie, she was speaking in different languages. And we said, wow, that's just so awesome. And so she inspired me. So I wrote this little song, and then she just, on the very second last day, just before the project was about to finish, Rosie comes out of her shell, blows us away, and sings this song and records it in the studio. Never sang in the studio ever before. And then it was like we just let someone loose, like she just came out of her shell. She was taking photos, smiling, talking so much. She had a really great bond with Phil. If Phil would like to add a little bit there, if you may. It's about your experience with Rosie.
Thanks, Sham. Yeah, I was just like as I mentioned earlier on, I was just really privileged, to be working with people that have gone through trauma. To be taken away, and then to come back many years later, and then 2 or 3 different languages, and then all of a sudden you want to learn a language which is your actual native tongue, and that's the last language. And she didn't sing, no matter what happened and what we tried to do. And then one day on the recording day, I grabbed the guitar out. Just before we went in, I started singing all these old songs, you know, and just for the fun of it, I said, "Come on, Rosie, sing this song with me." And she looked at me with like, her eyes kind of lit up, like, "Really?" Because when I was singing earlier, I could hear her humming with me, like. And I thought, okay, I'll try and expand on this. And before I knew it, you know, she was singing the songs with me. And I said, "That was beautiful, Rosie. That was quabada." So now what we're going to do, if you can do that and do it in the studio, and I'll stand right there next to you, and you know, me and Charmaine will be right there with you. And she looked at me and she had this nervous look. And then anyway, she got up, and after a bit of convincing, she got up and did it. And you can go online to SoundCloud and go into the lullabies on Can and have a listen to the song. It's a beautiful song, and it's perfect for a lullaby. Now, lullabies aren't meant to be long. They're not meant to tell, you know 3 or 4 minutes. It's only meant to be a short little lullaby, and that's the whole purpose of the song. So she did really well, and it was just see the change happening, the power of change, and the power of music, the power of language, and the power of culture, and the power of people coming together to make. And that changed her life. You know, you might just think, sometimes we may just think, "Oh, it's just singing a song," but no, it was more than that. It was so much more. It was for her soul. It was like reaching down to her soul and just giving her a piece of love and giving her a piece of tranquility of who she was and where she's been, and it was like a welcoming back to where she is. And no matter what, now that song's recorded beautifully, and you know, she's forever. She'll always be able to have that, you know, and that's the beauty that I've seen with this program. So yeah, that's a little bit of a story on about Rosie.
Yeah, and she's such a beautiful.
And when Rosie was singing, me and Charm was down on both sides, and I said to Rosie, "Well, look at this, Rosie. You're definitely the rose between the two thorns." Me and my dad jokes. Yeah, so it was really, really great to be a part of, you know.
Thank you, Phil. So yeah, I just thought Phil would add on to that because it was such a beautiful, emotional time for us, and we just could not stop thanking all of our participants over the last couple of years of allowing us to come in to their lives and to really tap deep into the soul of their identity and who they are. And it's not just learning a song, as Phil said. It's allowing someone to open up and to say, "I do need help with my language. I don't know my language, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to be humble." And it humbled us. It humbled me definitely. Just so privileged to be able to allow someone to let us to come into their life and to their family and their space, and to bring them back into language again and the connection to themselves and their country and their self-esteem, identity, and all that. So, I don't know if there's any Noongas out there in the audience there, or you might know of any Noongar family that are here online. We're going to teach you Rosie's song because it's such a beautiful story how the song came about, and of course it's very simple. So on the screen, you'll see that in every publication of our songs, we have a song booklet. And as Phil said, it's online, and you do have audios free to be able to access this song, so you can sing along with it. And in order for people to sing along with it, we have to come up with some keys or chords. So could be a pianist, they could be a guitar player, whatever, so they can learn to sing along. So you're all going to repeat after me. I'm going to say these words 3 times. After each time I say it, you're going to say it. So in total, we'll say it 3 times. Sorry, sometimes I can be very confusing. Okay, can I hear everybody say Kaya out there?
Kaya!
Oh, good. You're still with us. Okay. Your first word today in Noongar language is mawit. Can you say that for me?
Mawit.
Morich. I'm going to say it again. You repeat again. Mawit.
Mawit.
One more time. Mawit.
Mawit.
Morich. Noongar wakaning kedla. That means very good speaking today. Okay, our next line. Nija ngan mawit. Can you say that?
Nija nyan mawit.
Morich. Again. Nija ngan mawit.
Nija nyan mawit.
I'm going to say it again. Nija ngan mawit.
Nija nyan mawit.
I reckon these mobs spoke Noongar before somewhere. I think they're pretending that ain't know. Okay, we're going to say mawit. Yes, they do, don't they? We're going to say mawit, mawit, the third line.
Mawit, mawit.
Again, mawit, mawit.
Mawit, mawit.
One more time for good luck. Mawit, mawit.
Mawit, mawit.
Now, this is a tricky one coming up, so relax. Sit back. This one's pronounced nganyan, like onion, nganyan. Say onion.
Onion.
Now put a in front of that.
Onion.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that this cracks everybody up. Don't worry, you're not the only group that's done this. So the NG is a sound. If you say the word sing,
Sing.
now you're going to have that same sound in the back of your throat after you say sing, and say nganyan. Yes, well done, Murdoch. It comes with practice. This is the word that it used to just drive me crazy when I first learnt language. Say nganyan. If you get stuck, think of onion, and it'll just sort of slide over. People won't notice really. All right, and then the next word is nyet, nyet, nyet.
Nyet.
Nyet. Yep. And of course, yes, do it again. Nyet.
Nyet.
Murdoch. Let's string those words together because I know you know the last word on that line. Okay, so repeat after me. Nganyan nyet mawit.
Nyanyan nyet mawit.
Ooh, do it again for me, please.
Nyanyan nyet mawit.
One more time for good luck.
Nyanyan nyet mawit.
Murdoch. So that's what we do. We sort of break the song up, and what we do is we get each participant to practice reading it, because some people have never seen that language written before, and it's not an originally written language, it was oral language. But today we have to rely on written just to prompt us. Okay? And then, of course, verse 2 is just the repeat of verse 1. And if I can get everyone to say Kaya, that means you agree. Kaya?
Kaya.
Murich. Or you could say Anna. Can you say Anna?
Anna.
Anna. Can someone sing out if has anyone heard the word Anna before?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, we've got some experts there. Yeah, cool. And Anna means, does anyone sort of know what Anna might mean? Want to sing out something?
Sure.
Yeah, something saying agreement, is it?
Yep. Kaya, Murich. Yeah. So Anna could be like, Anna, I agree. And if someone tells you something really like, something you shouldn't really know, and you go, Anna, you know, something like that. So that's a good way. Okay. So Anna could be used in different ways. So when I ask you to agree, you could say Kaya or Anna. So just a little bit added Noongar there for you. All right. So we're just going to read it right through now if we can. and we're going to do it very slowly. Okay. So see if you can follow me. Mawit, mawit.
Mawit, mawit.
Nijanyan mawit.
Nijanyan mawit.
Mawit, mawit.
Mawit, mawit.
Nganyan yet mawit.
Nyanyan yet mawit.
Okay, Phil, can you unmute? We need to get Phil's feedback. What do you think, Phil?
Oh, they were
Do you reckon they passed?
Oh, Ethan. Frozen.
Oh, okay.
Were we that bad?
I think we'll take that as a yeah. They might have a little bit of connection.
Little bit technical hiccup.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, so now.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. So
Sorry, gang. My internet at the moment is very unstable, so I've had a bit of work going on in my ceilings for the last couple of weeks, as Charmaine and Ellie know. So if it does cut out, my apologies, but we should be enough to be able to get through. But yeah, no, they sounded really good, really good.
So what do you think out of 10, Phil?
What was that? Hey?
What do you think out of 10?
Out of 10, I'll have to give them probably about an 8. About an 8. 8 because...
Give yourselves a clap. That's brilliant. Well done. Okay. So, and the most important part of our language program, we have to praise you all the time, because people learn from praise and confidence and encouragement rather than negativity. So that's the most important part of our program. It may sound funny, but it's actually a big thing. Okay, so we always want to celebrate every little milestone, and that's what boosts us up and makes us feel good. Okay, Phil, we're going to get you to play this song for us when you're able to, and he's going to sing it through for us, and then we're going to you're going to listen, and then we're going to get you guys to sing it with him the second time round, but we're going to get you to mute so that there's no delay. So you'll hear him, but you'll be muted and you can sing along with each other in the room, if that's all right. Can I hear a Kaya or a Anna?
Anna.
Kaya.
Okay. Phil, so could you sing it through once for us, and then the second time around we'll get them to mute and they're going to sing along with you.
All right,
okay.
Cool.
Yeah. So Costa, if we can get people to mute, and then yeah.
Oh, it's freezing.
Another
freezing.
hiccup. It's all right, we'll give it a few seconds.
Yeah. Okay, while we're waiting for Phil, if everyone still can hear me, let's go through the words again. Mawit, mawit.
Mawit, mawit.
Mawit, mawit. Nijanyan mawit. Mawit, mawit.
Okay, Phil, it's a bit low. You can sing it another key if you like, for you. Because what we've done, everyone, is that we've written it to suit Rosie's voice. So it may be a bit high or low for us as musicians. So Phil can modify it if he likes.
Okay, I'll sing it a bit higher. Same
yeah,
key.
you got a deadly voice, brother.
Mawit, mawit, nijanyan mawit, 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 ngan yit mawit.
Oh. Now, Charmaine.
Oh, Charmaine, we can't hear you. Ah,
Can you hear me now?
yes,
Yep.
you're back.
Did you manage to hear part of the song?
Yes,
We got it once.
we got it once.
Oh, it's coming back again.
I'm back again. Here we go. Ready? Mawe, Nijanyan Mawe, Nijanyan Mawe. One more time. Nijanyan Mawe. Nyan nyan yit
Oh my goodness! I don't think we can do that, Phil. Oh, guys, it's such a beautiful little tune. So what we're going to do, when Phil unfreezes it, we're going to get if Costa can mute you guys, if that's possible, Costa, and then Phil sings, and you guys sing along with him.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, and Phil, can you do like the normal sort of melody so they can't go right up? Mawet, Nijangan mawet, ngawet mawet, nganyanyit mawet.
Thanks, Charmaine.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to mute, and Phil's going to play.
Okay, we'll mute.
And we'll sing along with Phil. But just mute everyone.
One more time.
I know I couldn't hear everyone, but now, I can see some people. I can see the room. Oh, there's about 3 or 4 people there. Okay, Phil, what if we put them on the spot? Now, they have to sing it back to us. Do you think they're ready?
I reckon we can give it a go.
Yep. So Phil and I will mute, and what we're going to get you guys is to sing it back to us. Now, Costa, you got to count them in by 1.
Okay.
2. I'll just give you a start up. Mawet, nijangan mawet, nganyanyit mawet. Your turn now. I'm going to mute now.
Okay.
Costa, count them in.
Challenge accepted. Okay. Counting us down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mawet, Nijanyan mawet, nyanyanyit mawet.
How do we do?
Oh, you guys are awesome. You can join the choir. Phil's clapping. How deadly is that? Can I get a response? How did you feel when you sang that?
Great.
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 Hearing a lot of great.
Awesome. So we're going to give this challenge sent out to you that for you to learn this by going online, downloading the song, getting the songbook, and of course, every time we have a lullabies project or we have language lessons, we always ask people to challenge themselves by teaching someone else. Do you think you can teach someone else this song?
Yes. Third line right.
I heard it. Okay. Oh, I heard a Kaya. Okay. So this is what our language program is all about. And just to recap on how the process happens or how we create language programs, we use a special program called the Master and the Apprentice. And Master and Apprentice is actually a program that was developed in the United States for the Indigenous Native Americans. And they found that they had they had lots of old speakers, but the young people weren't taking on the language. And so what they did was have the master as a speaker, and then they had the apprentice, and the apprentice would work with the master on an everyday basis by talking to them in the language of the land, of their community or clan. They would call them every day, say hello on the telephone in their language, go shopping, use language in everyday circumstances. And so what's happened in Australia, we was very fortunate in 2012 to have Native American speakers come over to Australia and to be able to set up some language immersion classes with language groups from Alice Springs and the surrounding clans and groups. And then also there was another one in Kununurra, which I was most privileged to attend. And we actually worked one-on-one with the Native American speakers where they taught us the strategies and the processes of how do you revive an endangered language. And of course, Noongar language is one of those languages that is quite endangered. We have less than 5 fluent speakers to date. And unfortunately, many of our speakers are passing away at a rapid rate. So what we're trying to do is counteract the language loss. And so what we hope to do with this project and many others like the Lullabies project is to intervene and to be able to refill those gaps that are missing and to also ensure that our next generation will never experience language loss again, that now they do know where they can go to source language. They've got a place where they can feel safe to learn their language and make sure that everyone shares that experience. And so the Master and Apprentice was a fantastic model that I sort of ran with, and I loved the approach, and I thought, well, I can do this. And so I've used the Master and Apprentice model within this project and many other projects that I've been involved with language revival. So there was a lady named Professor Leanne Hinton. She worked with the California Berkeley University, and that's where they developed that program. So if you ever want to go online, do research about that. It's a universal program or model, so it's been used worldwide right across the world. So it's not just only for Aboriginal or Native American languages. Yes, so I'm just thinking. Well, look at our program. Keep us going. So we were just going to talk about reflections of the online program. So I was just hoping that Bill might be able to come in on this part of it and talk about the reflections that he might have had doing this program and something that he might have seen in the participants to date and the participants last year. We touched a little bit about Rosie's story, but if Phil could do a little bit more on that, if you don't mind, Phil, while we've got you there. I'll just mute myself here. You unmuted, Phil? Unmute.
That doesn't happen very often. People always tell me to unmute. Usually tell me to mute. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I haven't been doing language now, teaching language, and been consulting it over the last, as long as Charmaine. But for me, I've also been in the progress of learning, and learning for me, the language has just done wonders. It's empowered me as a Noongar man, as a person, and I love teaching people, especially my family and kids and things. They're starting to pick things up now. But the transition from when people first start back in 18 and then 19 and where we are now, people are stringing sentences together and actually having conversations. And it's really pretty to watch. It's just really great to watch. And then when you put it into music and you do other things, there's other programs that you can do. It's just fantastic. And I remember 2 or 3 years ago, there was a couple of friends, non-Aboriginal people that I know that were talking in Noongar. And I'm like, what does that mean? So for me, it was like a bit of a wake-up call that, it's time for me to start really trying to sink my teeth into learning this language, because I'm going to get left behind in my own language, and that would be, for me, would be quite embarrassing. So I've been picking it up and learning, and I'm still learning, but I'm getting better every day. And I hope, in a year's time that I could be speaking, good Noongar, So that's the goal, that's the plan. But the changes that it's made to people, it's empowering. That's kind of the word that I use, because it's empowering to our mob, and it's also empowering to anyone else that wants to learn it. And there are more and more people that are actually learning. And you know what it does? It actually brings people together. That's what I love the most, is when, you don't have to be a Noongar, you don't have to be Indigenous to learn the language. And when you see two different kinds of people from all different nationalities learning this language and speaking it, it's just it's beautiful, and we're revitalising this beautiful language, and to hear it to be able to come into fruition, it's just it's fantastic to see, and to be a part of this small part of it in terms of this music and language. To see it grow has just been great, So if you get an opportunity, you get some stuff online, try and learn some language, string a few sentences together. And that way, when you're talking to certain people, you'll understand what they're actually talking about, or and then that way you're learning the oldest here, So I guess in a sense, it's just been fantastic to see, fantastic to watch, and to see people grow,
Thanks, Phil. And for me as a facilitator, I've been teaching for I'd say nearly on 20 years now. I didn't talk a little bit earlier about my background, but I live in Bunbury. I'm a Noongar woman, and I have connections to several clans: Baladong, Wilman, Wadandi, and sorry, not Wilman, Baladong, Wadandi, and Kanyang. And my teaching experience started 20 years ago when I did a education course learning language, and I was very privileged to have the opportunity to work with two elderly women, and since they've passed on. And so I was at the right time, I suppose, in the right place. And that was 1999, where I started my first language experience of teaching. And it was mainly developing the school programs and teaching in the classroom. So from then on, I went on to teaching in an Aboriginal school in Bunbury, Didijidi Aboriginal School, for 13 years. Then I decided to look at doing further study and becoming a linguist. So just to recap, I'm not quite there as a linguist yet. I've got 4 units to go, and then I'll be a qualified linguist next year. So it's taken me some time, but the journey has been fantastic, and I've been so privileged to work amongst many clans, many people of all ages. My favourite is working with the elderly, I have had a privilege to work with my youngest student in one classroom that I could say was 60 years old and up to about mid-70s. And so it was a privilege to tap into something that was there all along. So what we say that there's some memory there of language with the elderly people. And what it is that we have to try and find a key or a particular word or a sense or something to be able to open up that part of the brain that has so much language already there. And for instance, I could use my own mother as an example. My mother started learning languages, her own language late in life. And she did a course with me for 4 years, like just ongoing every day, every week, sorry. And now my mother is actually doing Welcome to Countries. She's speaking in language, she's songwriting in language, she's performing in language. To see her at this age in her life, embracing her language and identity is just an amazing thing. And through that, she's actually remembered stories of country, remembered yarns and words from her father, who had since passed on when she was a teenager. So she had lots of language there, but it wasn't spoken. No one else was actually engaging with that. And so to come along and to speak language again to the elderly, it actually brings it back. And it's like I always refer to as a sense of smell or something that triggers that memory. So I always say in my classes, just imagine your mum's best dish that she made for you, or your grandmother made a cake or something, and the smell waffles through the air. And when you smell that, you go, oh, I remember that time when I had that cake, or remember that time when it was a birthday party, and you start to remember. So language does the same thing. If you hear a word from way back, oh yeah, I remember that, and a story gets attached to that. So what I want you guys to do, just for a little activity right now, if that's all right, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to remember the most happiest memory in your mind of when you was a child and to think of a word or something that was said in that time. You could have been given a nickname. You could have been at a party somewhere. Could be a best friend. Could be a grandparent's name or something like that. So just take a minute just to close your eyes and to remember the most happiest time in your life in your childhood. Lay a little bit of time and relax. What I want you to do, if you have a pen and paper, is to write that word down. And if possible, if Costa, we can get someone for everyone to at least share a couple of words that they may have remembered as a child. And maybe talk about that a story or a feeling.
I've just asked our online guests, if you're listening, shoot it in the comments in the chat feed, and I can read some out to Shanique and Phil.
Fantastic. That'd be good.
Yep. Did you want me to? We've had quite a bit of activities throughout the whole
okay.
session. Do you want me to just share some of the comments that people have been making that you might like to hear?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Bobby Duck story. Thank you. Music and language reconnects us with our souls. That was from Stacey. Kaya from Emily. Actually, what is the word for thank you in Noongar? We got that question from Emily.
Oh,
sorry?
Yanga.
One more time?
Yanga.
Yana.
Younger.
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 Like
got it.
Opposite to old, young.
Yeah.
Younger.
I see. Great. There you go. Yeah, a lot of people felt happy listening to the lullabies. Love sharing music with you all, vibrant and heart connected. A few people have indicated that they're willing to take on the challenge to teach Rosie Song to other people in their communities too, which is exactly what we want to see. That's great. I've got a comment from Janie regarding your question about that time. And she says, I just remember shrieking with joy, running around a toy bush.
Sorry, say that again.
She said, I just remember shrieking with joy, running around a toy bush.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting story.
Yeah. I guess that's that time for her.
Yes, and that's unique and that's special to her.
Mm.
And what it is, no one can take away that memory, and that's solely for you. So Costa, was there anyone else that may have wanted to share a word or that's in the audience there that meant something to them?
Yeah, just having a look at the chat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, there's also a bit of a delay as well, which might explain why it takes a bit of time. But yeah, if you're with us online and you've just joined us for whatever reason, just let us know any words, you know, that evoke that childhood feeling of joy.
Yes.
Yaunga, that was from Jamie. From Kathy, we've got floating, splashing in the water, beach, swimming pool, all that sort of summertime by the sounds of it.
Beautiful. Awesome. That's great. So, Costa, so how much time do we have left now?
Well, we've got about 15 minutes, so we're thinking now would be the perfect time to have a bit of Q&A, if you're happy with that.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so again, our online friends, if you're with us and you've got any questions you'd like me to pass on to Charmaine and Phil, write them in the chat and I'll read them out for you. I saw a question earlier in the chat, which is maybe where we could start. I'm not sure who would be best to answer it, so I'll just throw it out there, and maybe even one of the CAN team can answer this one too. How many lullabies have been composed through the project? That was from Elliot.
36 prior to the ones you've done now.
Wow. Okay, so that was, you just heard from June from CAN, our co-CEO, and that was 36 prior to the project.
Prior to this edition.
Wow. Okay.
So how many of you guys been recording down in Yallingup?
15.
15. Okay, so it'll be 51.
Wow, there you go.
Songs.
51 in total throughout the duration of the project to date. Is that, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. And how long has it been running for so far?
So 4 years.
4 years, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Sing us some more, Sham.
Sing you some more? Just trying to think top of my head. Let's have a look at the songbook. Yes,
people may have questions.
You put me on the spot there, Jane.
I
know. We can do Rosie Rosie again, just to get everyone feeling comfortable with the song. There's another one.
What about gender? Just sing gender to people.
Oh, hang on, I've got another one. Let's do one because we haven't done it for a while, June.
Yes.
This one is Kulanga Ngunding, Children Sleeping.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and it goes like this. So, Bill, this is that Kulanga Ngunding song, and I'll just sing it off the cuff. Kulanga, 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 no good Ngunding. Kulanga, Kulanga, Ngunding. Kulanga, 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 no good Ngunding. Kulanga, Kulanga, Ngunding. We can turn and go and that's in the Mandra songbook. Nyanyan Yit Mawit. There it is, guys. Thanks, Jean. And we also have the other songbook. Sorry. There you go. So, guys, go online and download these. They are free, and it's a fabulous resource if you're teaching in a pre-primary or a daycare centre, and if you wanted to embrace language within your centre, have dual signage or anything in language. I really encourage you to use these because it's a great way of learning language. And of course, you always learn language much faster in music and song. And then we have our little CDs to match. I feel like I'm doing a promo here.
You're doing a good job.
Why not?
You can
By the
download.
way, you get one, you get another one. So, and then of course, down the track, you're going to have another one. So you're going to have 3 at the moment that Phil and I have been involved in. And what the fantastic thing was, we actually recorded 19 in 2018. I think that may be the record, June. Is that correct?
Yeah, Bunbury definitely has taken out the quantity prize.
Sorry. Yeah, it has. We had participants from, I think, 10 years old. Oh, no, I must correct that. We even had some toddlers that were in the studio and were part of some of the group songs, all the way up to middle age range of 70s that participated in that project. So we have a large diversity of ages and people, male, female, within that project. I will. Yep. So
I've got a couple of
do you have any more
I've got a couple of questions for you coming through, Charmaine, and I guess Team Can as well. So where can we download these lullaby books? Can we download them?
From the CAN website,
So
which is canwa.com.au.
Canwa.com.au, all the lullaby books should be there. I can also provide a link to that for our online friends. And another question I had was, how did we get involved in this? So if we've got some people down and yelling up that are impassioned to support this or be involved, is there any way they can do that?
They can tell us they're interested.
Okay.
And if we do another online edition, we could, we could let them know.
Great. Okay. So yeah, the official answer there is to get in touch with us, and we can, let us know that you're interested, and then we can plug you in when that activity sort of recommences. So it's good. The more we know of people who are interested and ready to support, the merrier, I suppose. And then we'll keep you in the loop. Let's have a look.
Costa as well.
Yes.
You can register your interest in the lullabies part of the website. So if you go to canwa.com.au /lullabies, there's like a little form there so people can register their interest there as well.
Awesome. That's great. Did that come through loud and clear, or did I need to repeat that, Charmaine?
Loud and clear.
Oh, all right, awesome. So there's an official form that you can fill out on the lullabies part of the Canwa website, and that should, that'll give you, and I will put the link back in there too, and then it should be pretty straightforward. Great. Let's see. Quabida. That seems to be the questions for the moment, the main questions. Are there any sort of concluding thoughts or feelings from both of you? Phil, I believe you just got gestured to. Oh, has Phil frozen again?
Oh, it's frozen. Okay.
All right, the floor's yours until he unfreezes, Charmaine.
Okay, no worries. Look, I just encourage everyone to have a look at these lullabies. They're all unique. They're all got the flavour of different country. And so there's a bit of diversity. So if you wanted to learn a song from the Mandra area, you've got the Mandra mob there. Wadandi, you've got the Bunbury mob. And I'm sure there was ones from Maiden Collie previously. So there's all different languages that are, or dialects, sorry, that actually can cater for some needs of community. And, you know, I couldn't express it even, you know, so much that we can start learning to embrace it and to encourage it. And if you cannot do a project like this, or you can't do lessons like this, but maybe you can create your own in your own home. So you can use as a teaching resource to teach your children, play it in the car on the way to school when you're dropping them off, on the way home. And you know what? When you hear a song and you get sick of it, you must have learnt it by then. It's a good little strategy. And I think Phil's frozen.
I think Phil's still frozen.
He's just
But
refrozen.
I've just been,
there he
you
is.
know, sometimes I send the song out to people, share it out as a gift. You know, this is a song that you can use within your family. It could be played at christenings. It could be played anywhere where there's a function in ADOC, which I've sort of flagged it through, and I've done lots of workshops with daycare centres, and I just do language lessons and stuff. And I say, by the way, there is a CD, and there's a songbook that you can use. So it's something to take away, and people can embrace it and use it themselves. And we've had people, you know, create a program around a song that was actually in one of these. So a training teacher of mine that we're mentoring in Bunbury, she's actually going to use one of those songs as a training, as a theme for one of her programs in the language class. So they're all going to learn about the family, and they're going to learn one of those songs. So it's just a great resource to use, and it's just, I suppose, seeking out how much you can extend that resource, and it's multiple choices. But I've had lots of fun hanging out with Phil, Ellie. Thanks to Ellie for being a great coordinator, and online experience has just been a lot of fun.
Great.
I think Phil can talk now.
While we've got Phil unfrozen, anything you'd like to just sort of reflect on or conclude with? Oh. Phil, are you muted?
No, for me, it's just it's been a real pleasure being part of this program. I've been a musician. I've done all kinds of different things. I've worked with kids. I've worked in schools. I've done stuff in prisons. I've been a counsellor. I've used music in counselling. So this is another part of what I'm trying to do. You know, and a part of that is just having fun and learning language. And it's been a real good ride. And for anyone out there that wants to learn, that's always contemplating on the Noongar language, just do it. Just do it, and just start off with a few words, and you know what? You'll actually develop a passion for it, and before you know it, you know, in 3 or 4 months' time, you're actually stringing sentences and having conversations with people, and at least then you can say, you're speaking, you know, one of the world's, if not the world's oldest language, in terms of Aboriginal language around Australia, that is. And you're representing the Noongar clan, and you know the Bibliman people, the 14 clans from down this way. So do it and love it, harness it, and then teach it, and then pass it on to other people. You know, the words that you learnt today about Mawat, and learn and teach other people, and because that's how things are done. Before we know it, other people are going to know it, and then other people are going to learn it. And, so just do it and sing as much as you can. That's me.
Well, that sounds like a really, really good call of action to sort of start to wrap things up on. So thank you for stoking that sort of passion in all of us. And if you could see all the faces in the room, they're all smiling. And I'm sure it's exactly the same in the people that are joining us near and far. So no matter where you are, can we just give Phil and Charmaine like a really warm thank you for a really beautiful session. Sort of wrap up this session. Was there something else? No, that's it? Okay, great. So I think we'll be transitioning to our lunch break. Is that right?
We are.
Okay, so One. Am I still on? I'm still going? Cool. Sorry. I'm just checking. So, thank you all so much for being with us near and far. It's been an amazing experience. And we want to make sure you all have enough energy to enjoy the rest of the day with us. So please go have a break, have some lunch or a cuppa, and please join us again at approximately 1 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. We'll be back with the Creative Recovery Network, who'll be presenting on sustainable practice for artists. And if you're feeling a bit idle during that break, have a look in the session info where we've got all the resources that we've been referring to throughout the day. And also don't be shy and go nuts in the photo feed, show us what you're working on, show us your faces, show us where you're coming in from. We'd love to collect all of that. And just a last shout out to the block team, the bringing in the project exercise. We noticed that a few people have started filling out the first couple of cards on the Google Slides, so make sure you go through and finish all of those cards for us. So that's it from me, and we'll see you all back here in half an hour. Thank you so much.
Costa. Bye.
Bye. Love ya.
Raya.
Hiya.
Gems.
So lovely.